Hello, it's Landon, a member of Long Island Cares and founder of Food for Thought, a place for people of all ages and backgrounds to share ideas and learn about the most pressing food security issues. I'm here today with a special guest, Zsofia Pasztor, who has too many accomplishments to list, but to name a few, she's an award-winning landscape designer, permaculturist, and horticulturist. She's an expert in restoration horticulture and urban agriculture. She's the founder of Farmer Frog nonprofit organization, which supports innovative urban agriculture and sustainable food productions. And she's the author of an outstanding book on rain gardens. Hello, Zsofia, and thank you for joining me today.
Hi there.
Today, I would like to get your thoughts on the importance and impact of offering culturally relevant options at food pantries. With that being said, my first question is, how does offering culturally relevant food options at food pantries help to address food insecurity among diverse communities?
It does help because people relate to their own food in different ways. And if we are really to help folks who are hungry, we want to offer options that speaks to them culturally, makes them feel at home. They are familiar with eating it, preparing it, and it's also good for their body. A lot of times, culturally relevant food are healthy foods, and they are the healthy options for the community we're servicing. So it does help engage people with valuable food assistance as needed, but it's also food assistance generally is not a solution. So we're gonna have to go way beyond that. We need to have food sovereignty that includes culturally relevant food, and it also includes food assistance or food support, because if we are sovereign in our food system, then there is no hunger. It's an oxymoron. You cannot have hungry people in a community that is actually having food sovereignty and authority over its own resources and foods. And that is the solution. But that doesn't make a lot of money to a lot of people. Poverty and hunger are big business, and it really doesn't pay fixing this stuff. It's just like you're looking at various health issues. On one hand, you have dietitians who are telling people to eat healthier options, avoid sugar, look for their traditional foods, such as what type of protein or produce would be the food that their ancestry has been always eating, and what is it that's appropriate for their body. And then on the other hand, you have all this fluff and advertisement and marketing, and it's just bombarding people all the time to have the unhealthy option. But look, you can have the zero Pepsi. It doesn't matter if it's zero Pepsi. It's not good for the body. It doesn't matter how you package it. So we're gonna have to be very clear about what culturally relevant we really mean by, because there is a really big risk here that I've seen now happening more and more. Is just like if what I mean when I say greenwashing. You mentioned my book on rain gardens. A lot of times unsustainable projects got passed because, oh, look, but they use solar panels and have rain gardens. It's a greenwashing. And in this sense, culturally relevant food used in not the right context is essentially washing over the actual problem, making us feel good. Because look, we have families who are here, immigrants from the various southern parts of the world. And look, we are offering sweet potatoes. Isn't that nice? And mangoes and rice. Well, that's great, but let's look at it why they are hungry in the first place. So we're gonna have to make sure that we don't replace the real conversation that needs to take place that focuses on systemic change with the conversation about culturally relevant food assistance. But with that said, food assistance does have a place, although we are not using it in place of dignifying livable wage jobs. Food assistance really was meant to be in critical situations. There are emergencies. There are sometimes catastrophic emergencies, earthquakes, various climate change related issues, and more. As we know, pandemics can pop up too. And it's important that the communities impacted by it receive support that is relevant to their traditions and honors them as human beings in a dignifying way. So to give you an example, we had Alaska impacted by the typhoon in the fall that really hurt many communities up there. And if we have food assistance that sends them canned peas and canned sweet potatoes and canned chicken, it's food, yes. So if they look up recipes, they probably can even eat it, although it's not nutritionally really beneficial. But they would appreciate, and it would make them feel a lot more whole if they received salmon, if they received produce and vegetables that is more based on the Alaskan agricultural valuable and traditional foraging foods. They eat whale, they eat seal, they eat moose. Those are the type of things that we want to be aware of. And the best way to do that is not just jump in and help, but actually converse with the community and take a tally. Who is there? What their needs are? What is it that they really asking for? Because unless we provide what people are asking for, it's not real help, is it?
Yeah, it's great. So we just talked about how that affects the physical health of someone, but
Mhm.
what impact does having access to familiar, culturally appropriate foods have on an individual's mental and emotional well-being?
Well, most of us eat. I do know that not everyone is able to eat food the way we eat, but some people need some specific other ways. But most of us do eat using our full body experience, which means it's the smell, it's the texture, it's the color, what it looks like visually, and how it feels when we put it into our mouth. These all connect to memories, to emotions, experiences that we bring with us. There is a reason why we have what's called comfort food. For me, comfort food could be very different than comfort food means for you. And comfort food does not necessarily equate to what we had in childhood. Most of us have childhood foods that really tie us back into that we feel good and safe and comforted, but not all of us. And some people actually had really traumatizing childhoods where food was a part of that. So it can even trigger traumatic experiences sometimes. But in our lifetime, most people have at least a couple of good experiences that really relate to food when it was just perfect. It was good, not just the meal. The meal might actually have not tasted really good. I have friends whose mom wasn't the best cook, but that flavor was so good because they were so loved that when they feel that maybe burned taste, it does make them feel at home. And this is where it's at. It's that experience that comes with it, that it brings us back to a more centered and calm state. So food can be very healing to the mind and heart as well, in an emotional and even sometimes spiritual way. For some folks, that's what it is. It's important that we are also what that food is as we are seeking that comfort. So if someone grew up with Twinkies, it's not a good idea to have 100 Twinkies as comfort food, because we have to be very, again, aware of what it does to our body. But there are ways to bring that experience into our meals and our food in a healthy way. So culturally relevant foods for most folk are helping to feel at home and to feel more connected. It's also something that when we share our own food with another person, we can engage better. So food was always a platform to, when we say we're breaking bread together, that is something that is a community centered act that builds relationships and fosters friendships and positive experiences most of the time. Again, I mean, we can't be painting with a too big of a broad brush. It's not true for everyone at every circle.
Yeah, thank you. That was great. So my next question is, how does offering culturally relevant food options at food pantries affect the community's perception and utilization of the pantry services?
Well, it definitely helps them feel heard, right? They are more seen. But ultimately, a food pantry is not going to be fit with the community and the culture unless they have more than just the culturally relevant food, right? If an all-white organization with all of the food pantry employees and volunteers being white people will have some food that is relevant, for example, for an immigrant community, it can become something that feels a bit more patronizing and profiling. So involving the community in more ways than one is really important. I feel that offering culturally relevant food is sort of like the first step to build trust, right? Look, I care, and so I start to offer this so that if you come and you choose to receive that, I can give it to you. But there has to be free choice. There has to be, again, involvement and community participation, because without that, it's nothing else but a top-down approach. I think that our entire food assistance system, the way we have it created, built, and have it function, is faulty. It is all really difficult to switch it to something that actually serves the whole human experience and the whole person and really leads to solutions and is standing with the people and looking out for their basic rights. And so it's a very big conversation, and it's definitely requiring a systemic change and a systemic approach. And culturally relevant food, this whole conversation is just really the tip of the iceberg, and it's one of the first steps that we are very late actually to discuss, because this should have been number one whenever food assistance was designed and planned. I'm just glad that, right, I mean, if you think back what it was a couple decades ago, it was milk powder and very general old and expired foods that the expiration date were several years old. The pandemic helped shift that a little bit, because food was so much of a need so suddenly for so many that these really not good practices that were very common in food banks and food pantries, that you had all the expired food that, for the poor, yeah, okay, it's free, right? It'd be good for them. They should be just happy that they get anything. And this sort of like came to the forefront. And also a lot of people who needed assistance during the pandemic are people who never needed assistance before. So a lot of folks who actually are vocal had this experience, and they were not oppressed before, so they didn't have that internalized oppression experience, and they spoke up and shook the boat. And as a result, now 3 years later, we actually starting to have conversations about these things and cultural relevancy. But I want to make sure that no one feels comfy because, we're talking about it, so we have good solutions, or look, we are working towards solving it. Yeah, but we are ages behind. The gap is so big between what is and what's needed. And we call ourselves the richest country in the world, whether we are or not, that's questionable, but we call ourselves that as a nation. We have no excuses. So we do have the richest people, a lot of the richest people in the world. So we really have no excuses why this is an issue, but at least we are talking about it now.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like that relationship between the food pantry and the people coming to the food pantry is more than just a place to get food, as it's more of a place for connection of the community. So
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So my final question for you today is, how does incorporating cultural considerations into food pantry operations impact the sustainability and long-term success of the pantry?
So incorporating what into the food pantry operations?
Incorporating cultural considerations.
Is there any other way to operate? Seriously, is there any other way to operate? If anybody tries to operate without that, they should be closed down immediately. They are not servicing the community.
Yeah.
That's really it. And I have to also say that there is nothing about sustainability here. There is no way to do this sustainably, because hunger can never be normalized and it can never become a sustainable operation.
It's true. Thank you. So that's all for me. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I'm very happy and honored that you reached out and I thank you for your patience, because the internet here, I'm having some real challenges every day. So thank you for waiting for me.
No problem. We all have those issues. All right.
Thank you. All
Thank you.
right. Okay.